Hello everyone, welcome back to our basic Excel training series. In the last module, we explored operators, basic formulas, and the functions, the building blocks of Excel. But have you ever faced this situation? You write a formula in one cell, copy it to another, and sometimes it works perfectly and sometimes it doesn't. But when someone else do it, it just works like magic every single time. Well, that's no magic. It's one of the most important concepts in Excel called cell referencing. And trust me, once you understand this, your formulas will work flawlessly every time. Cool. Before we start, quick refresher on operators. To begin with, let's look at two key operators we'll be using in this session. First one is the colon and another is the comma. So for what do we use the colon? So colon we normally use to define a range and we use comma to combine multiple range. So for example, let's say I want to define a range from H1 to H6, saying this color. How I'll define it is equal to H1 colon H6. Sorry, I need to change this from H1 to H2, H2 to H6. So this is the range I'm selecting. Yeah, I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What it is picking up? Only the first cell. But if suppose I'll change this from only range to the sum. I'm adding this range into sum function and enter. I'll have all of this as a sum. 15. How can I utilize the comma here now? Let's say there is another range which is this. I've copy pasted and here I'll say I need a summation of this as well as this. I can do this. I'll put is equal to sum, say bracket open. I'll select this range, say comma, and I'll select this range and then bracket close. So this is how I have added the multiple range 1 and then the range 2. I can keep adding the multiples of it and then get the summation of it and say enter. So this is the 15 and this is the 15. I got an answer of a 30. Now the real game begins here. When you copy or drag formula in Excel, the cell references inside that formula can change automatically. And that's exactly where many people go wrong. So let's break it down. There are three types of cell referencing in the cell. I'll just define it here. I'll say relative reference, say absolute reference, and mix reference. I'll color this in a different shades. I'll give this as a gold. I'll give this as a blue, and I'll give this as a green. Let me make a table here. Then I'll add this. Then I'll drag this. Let's say 30. I'll do this here also. Make it 10 and drag up to here and drag this formula here. So again, this is my table. I'll mark this with the yellow color and make it bold. Now let's understand how these values are reflecting in a respective references. Let's talk about relative reference. So I'll say is equal to E9 and enter. I'll copy this, right click, copy, and I'll select this range and say right click, paste. What I can see here is the E9, here is the E10, here is the E11. I'll press Control and backtick button and scroll towards right. You may can see the selection, the range also changing because of it is relative referencing. I haven't fixed the range, that's where it's changing and picking up the next cell as soon as I'm copy pasting into next cell. Okay, let's move back. I'll show you what absolute referencing is. Let's say is equal to E9, enter, and this time I'm adding the dollar sign to both before column as well as before row and say enter. I've manually added the dollar sign and I'll say Control C or maybe copy and selecting this particular range and say right click and paste. I can see everywhere 10 is populating. Everywhere I can see checkout here. Everywhere I can see the E9 is not changing. It's just giving a reference of this particular cell. I'll press Control and backtick button and come down, come on the right hand side. Look at everywhere it is E9, right? This is called my absolute referencing, where my column won't change as well as my row also won't change. Cool. Reversing back. Now let's see what mixed referencing is. I'll say is equal to E9 and say enter. This time I'll make my column fixed and say dollar before E and enter. I'll say copy and there is a shortcut key I can use Control C. I'll select the cells and say Control V for the pasting. Here we can see my column has not changed, hence my 10 is repeating, but my row has changed, hence the next value has been selected. Yeah, I'll say Control backtick button. We can see E9, E10, E11, similar like E9, E10, E11. Check out this E9, 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 similar to this E9, 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 E9. So my column hasn't changed, but my row has changed. Reversing back. I will take you through with row as a fix. So I'll add a dollar sign before 9. I'll scroll down little. I'll Control C, selecting the cell, and Control V. You can see my row hasn't changed. Using the Control backtick button, you can see my E9 hasn't changed, but my column has changed. Having the 9 hasn't changed, whereas column has changed. So what is this? My row are fixed. My columns has fixed. Row plus columns fixed. And this is nothing is fixed. I'll say Control backtick button. And this is how your referencing works. So I'll recommend every one of you, you know, do the same exercise at your end so you can better understand it. Thank you.